Okay, so we just finished the Xbox presentation, like maybe what 30 minutes ago. It just wrapped, maybe a little more. And I wanted to get some people's like initial raw reaction to what we just saw with Microsoft's almost 90-minute showcase of about 30 titles. And first of all, what do we think of the overall flow and the structure of this? Because I really liked it since there wasn't a lot of talking. It was just like game after game after game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the pacing was exceptional. And honestly, I think it was one of Xbox's best shows since the 360 era. I mean, they killed it. And, it's something that we've been talking about them doing for a long time. They always seem to have the games on paper, but this time around, there was a lot of execution on that delivery, and man, I'm impressed. I mean, my feelings are still a little raw because we just came off watching it, but I think if I sleep on it tomorrow, I'll still feel the same way. I thought it was awesome. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with the word of this was their best presentation since the Xbox 360 era of Microsoft. They came with strong pacing. There was really never a lull in the momentum of the show, and that's usually an area that Microsoft, struggles in. Usually their presentation has some sort of key weakness that overall just disrupts that flow and rhythm. But this one, it felt well paced, it was well structured, and even how they were able to say, intertwine the Bethesda stuff beautifully. It was all just so seamless. And this was the show Microsoft had to have, and I think they delivered this year. And it's really refreshing for Microsoft to finally deliver on that promise of showing us what the future has and what the current year has for the Xbox brand. So kudos to Microsoft.
I noticed that though. You're right. They had like Bethesda and Microsoft, Xbox. They were really intertwined. Like it wasn't just like, okay, we're all done with the Xbox, Microsoft first party stuff. Now we're going to go over to Bethesda and they're going to take the rest of the show. It was. I mean, they kicked off with Starfield immediately, coming out November 11th, 2022. We got a release date a year and a half out. A year and a half. Like, okay, MVG, you said it's to sync up with like what they did with Skyrim for that release date.
11/11/11, right?
Yeah, so I mean that's fine. It's just odd that we got that release date so far. I mean, it's obvious they should be able to hit that since it's so far away. Like they're probably going to have this game ready to go like over the summer next year, maybe a little after that, and then they'll be like, yeah, we have plenty of time now to get it done. But Nate, we talked about this quite a bit leading up to this eventual reveal after the acquisition by Microsoft. This is an Xbox exclusive. It is not on PlayStation.
Yeah, they finally came out and just bluntly said it. This is an Xbox exclusive. And with the release in late 2022, that makes a lot of sense. Even if there were active developments on the PlayStation version leading up to when the acquisition was finalized, now we're looking at something, it's a year and a half out. Probably easier for them to justify cutting that cost and saying, hey, we're 18 months from release. We still have a lot of work to do. Now our focus is on that Xbox brand. And, now we're beginning to see what that relationship is really going to develop into. So anything in 2022 from Bethesda, yeah, at this point, I think we can confidently say it will be exclusive to Xbox and PC.
Yep. That means they showed it. It was a cinematic trailer for Starfield. Mm-hmm. It at least gave us the idea of what Starfield's going to be, like where you're going from, I guess, planet to planet, exploring, right? And they said Creation Engine 2.
Do you know what this game is still? I mean, you kind of know, but you still really don't know what this game is.
I'm hoping it's going to be a bit more, I guess, at launch anyway, a bit more of a No Man's Sky, but like more to it. The Creation Engine 2, though, is the thing I'm curious about. Like, what exactly are they enhancing or building on with Creation Engine 1? But that, I mean, we're still kind of leading up to like, okay, we're a year and a half out from its release. I assume they're just going to be showing more. Maybe even next E3, like a full gameplay run through or something. But you're right. At this point, they just need to set it up. They need to say if it was an Xbox exclusive, they need to give us a release date. They did all that. So,
are you guys surprised that they didn't show us any gameplay at all?
No. I think this was really just to set that foundation of we want to announce the game, we want to announce our platforms, give you a release date, and now between June 2021 and November of 2022, now we're going to build that hype. We're going to start showing you gameplay and the gameplay concepts and elements that the game will implement. And we're going to get you excited So now we're basically entering that 16-month marketing cycle for the product.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Good point.
They showed off Stalker 2 a bit more with the release date. This is a timed exclusive for the Xbox. It's coming out April 28th. I think visually this looked like a next-gen game. And full ray tracing, showing that off with some of the lighting effects. And this was one of the most impressive-looking games, I would say, for the overall showcase. They did have Back 4 Blood's going to Game Pass day one. We've seen a lot of Back 4 Blood already. That's like the Left 4 Dead successor, basically. So, I mean, that's cool. October 12th, that'll head into Game Pass. And, hey, people can just try it out by downloading it. Contraband is from Avalanche Studios. That is, Nate, that's Typhoon?
Yes, that was previously known as Project Typhoon.
Yes. Xbox exclusive, but we didn't really see anything about it. So, I mean, they just showed us the logo, and I was like, all right, moving on. Okay. Sea of Thieves is getting Captain Jack Sparrow crossover, June 22nd. Sea of Thieves: A Pirate's Life. Yakuza Like a Dragon is heading to Game Pass. It's out today, so if you haven't had a chance to play it, hey, I think that's a cool cool thing to be added in. And that means all the Yakuza games are there now, like all of them. So you can literally play from start to finish there. Battlefield 2042 is shown, and I have to say, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm on board with this game. That looked fun.
I hate that I have to drop 70, but I'll do it because it looks fun.
They had the dynamic weather. They showed the tornado. They showed like the big sandstorm coming in. It looked serious. Like it was like, all right, this looks pretty massive. 128 people in a map all at once. And they even showed a grappling hook. And grappling hook's like this thing now. Because everyone's going to be using grappling hooks. Got Halo and this, just kind of grappling around. So it looks like they have a lot of different movement options now in Battlefield 2042. So I think we could all have a lot of fun with that. Like everyone from the Spawncast jump in and just kind of play in a couple of matches there. Could be good.
And Nate, you called that it wasn't coming to Game Pass.
You did
correctly.
That's right. It was not announced as a day one Game Pass release, and it will eventually come to Game Pass, just like all EA games. But yeah, not at launch.
12 Minutes. That's coming out August 19th. That's Game Pass day one. Psychonauts 2, August 25th. 2 months out for Psychonauts 2. I was hoping it'd be a little soon. I was actually hoping they'd get it out in July or something, but I just wanted to play the game. So August is cool. I'm looking forward to Psychonauts 2. I'm on board with that one. And Psychonauts 1 is in Game Pass now, so if you've never played it, you should go check it out. It's from the original Xbox. Definitely a classic there. They announced that 10 more Bethesda games are heading to Game Pass, which includes games like Evil Within 2 and strangely Doom 2016. I don't know why Doom 2016 wasn't already there, but it's there now. So there you go. Fallout 76 update. I don't think any of us play Fallout 76. So there you go. Elder Scrolls Online update. Party Animals 2022. I have no idea what that was. But
it was an interesting game that I would never play.
Hades getting that physical copy as well. August 13th. That's a good one.
On the Nate the Hate show, we predicted that would be coming. So
I was a little disappointed it wasn't getting dropped in the Game Pass day one, but I mean, eventually it'll probably find its way there.
It's Game Pass.
Oh, it is?
It's Game Pass, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay,
it is Game Pass day one.
There you go.
It looked a little weird because if you looked at the end, it showed the box and it said the date, but it didn't really say Game Pass. But on the bottom left, if you look, it says Game Pass. So it's definitely Game Pass.
Even better. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a big get for Game Pass, and so many people are going to be able to experience the game for the first time, and that's where Microsoft just keeps adding value to Game Pass with these indies, and that's the perfect Game Pass get. Really excited for that one.
Somerville 2022. It's also Game Pass day one, and then they went into Halo Infinite, and I will admit they probably could have closed out the show with this if they had a release date, but they didn't have a release date for Halo Infinite, which is still really weird to me that we got a release date for Starfield. That's a year and a half away, but we didn't get a release date for Halo. They just said holiday.
All right, Nate. Why don't we have a release date for Halo? I mean, this game is coming out. I don't feel... I mean, last year, there was that 6-month silence where we just felt like something is weird, something is off about this, and we were right. This year, the game is coming out, but why do you think they haven't committed to a release date at this time?
I mean, that's a great question, and I was surprised when we saw the November release date for Forza Horizon 5, because Microsoft doesn't usually pair their own releases very close to each other in terms of the release schedule. And them just slapping that holiday 2021 on Halo, in the back of my mind, it does have the setup of a potential delay.
They can't delay. They can't do that. You can't do it.
They could, though.
They could. I mean, you hope
It's
not.
on the back of the Xbox Series Xbox.
But I mean, maybe they just haven't locked that date down. They're still working towards a hopeful date, and maybe the game releases in December. But I would imagine their hope is we want to get it out before Black Friday. We need those holiday.
I was hoping they would have this thing ready for like September, October. Then if Forza's in November, I'm like, come on, get it out in like early part of like the holiday season. Get that set up. Get a bundle out there for the holidays, even.
That was a surprise to me that they didn't commit to a date. I mean, look, we talked about this on the Spawncast. Release dates now don't really mean anything anymore, but you still got to lock down a date for this game. We still want to know when we're going to get it.
Yep. But they showed the multiplayer, of course. We already know is free to play. They did talk about crossplay as well. I assume that's their day one for PC, which is cool. And they showed a grappling hook, which we already knew before in the single player, but it's going to be part of the multiplayer.
That got me excited when they showed the player kill the enemy and grapple hook their weapon over to him. Yep. I kind of paused for a second to say, okay, you have my interest. This is a Halo multiplayer game. I have to now get myself invested in, because that just looks like an awesome mechanic, and it can change so many ways of how you approach skills, of just being able to say, oh, he's got the sniper rifle. Oh, I'm out of ammo in my shotgun. Give me that gun really quick. Bam.
But they also showed using a grappling hook to get onto flying vehicles like the Pelican or the Banshee. That means you'll be much less vulnerable to them if you're out in the open field and you have that grappling hook. And that's my biggest question. Is this a pickup or power up on the field, or is this something that you can just have equipped at all times? Because then it would actually be a very powerful pickup to try to go for and like strategize around like securing. So that's the biggest question I have right now. Is that a power up, or is that something that everyone just has by default?
If it's by default, it adds a lot of traversal elements to how you're going to approach playing it. And if it is a power up, that's going to be that focus for everyone's going to be rushing for that grappling hook, because it adds so much, speed and traversal effects to your character, and you have so much diversity. That's how you could approach combat. But it's going to be unique as how they approach that particular element now.
They also had sprint that was in the game. They showed that very, very quickly early on. So I'm not a biggest fan of sprint in Halo, but it is there, and I know the way things have changed with first person since Halo 3. That's kind of, they got to put sprint in some way so it feels fast enough. But they showed like cinematic trailer. They showed a little bit of in-engine footage too of kind of panning around the big map, and it's gonna be this big old place to explore. But they showed a cinematic trailer and then just holiday. So
it looks a lot better. It looks a lot better than last year. I mean, what a difference a year makes, right? Getting that game polished. It's still not, I wouldn't say it's like a true next-gen looking game, but it does look really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the multiplayer looked fun, and the campaign part, like I said, cinematic looks good. So, yes, I'm very excited for Halo Infinite now. I'm glad it looked better. Yeah. All right, is what I'll say, because Halo has been beaten down over the last year. So I'm happy to see that people are excited for it again. They had Diablo 2 Resurrected, September 23rd. Plague Tale Requiem 2022. Is that a sequel?
Yeah. Yes. I think it is, right?
Interesting. I did not play much of the first Plague Tale, but I know Evan was a big fan of it, so I'm sure he was pretty happy to see that get announced.
It's a good game.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. Yeah. Good. I'm okay, cool. Very good. Then I just have written down Far Cry 6 again. Like I
was throwing money around this E3, just giving it to everyone, right?
Man, I feel like I've seen a lot of Far Cry 6.
Yeah, this is what, the third time in
I feel like I've played the game at this point. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny watching a Far Cry trailer, because the first time they show you something, it's like all serious and political and like doom and gloom, and then somehow it just turns into more of a comedy type game where they're cracking jokes and stuff, and the characters are making fun of each other. Man, Far Cry is weird. Like I don't know. Like I love the series, but I also feel like they need to come up with something different.
Yeah, and that's the game we've talked about looking a little off. So we'll see when it comes out how it ends up looking in person on our TV. Slime Rancher 2 is 2022, and so I don't know what's going on here, but Shredders. This is December 2021, Xbox Series and PC only, so not an Xbox One title. It's a snowboarding game. Like, are snowboarding games making a comeback right now?
I
Good question.
didn't think so.
I mean, I guess they're trying to bring them back, but the whole time I was watching that trailer, I wish it could have just ended and it would have said amped.
SSX.
Yeah, everyone was looking for that familiar title, Amped, SSX, something like that,
1080 snowboarding.
Yeah, but Shredders, December 2021. I'll check it out because I do want snowboarding games to at least make a bit of a return, and this one looked good enough, so I need to play it. But it's interesting that we were talking about a lot of snowboarding stuff recently with like Riders Republic yesterday and now Shredders today, and then there was that VR snowboarding game that came out by the person who made 1080. So it's very interesting to see how much snowboarding stuff's coming up all of a sudden. Atomic Heart got like a cinematic in-engine trailer. It's an open world action RPG. Replaced. Okay, MVG, you brought this one up.
Yeah.
Replaced is 2022.
I'm a fan. It looks good. I mean, it's that 2.5D style game. Could be a Metroidvania style game. I don't know the premise of it, but I liked what I saw of the trailer. I was definitely hooked on that one.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one. It did have this kind of interesting vibe to it with the like kind of the pixelated visuals, but it had those perspective shifts as things were happening on screen. So I like what I saw there. Should have Grounded update. I haven't really played much Grounded at all, so I don't.
Yeah. I think that was. I mean, there wasn't really a point in the show where it was losing me, but it was definitely getting to that point in the show where it was starting to dip a little bit. But fortunately, they kind of recovered pretty quickly after that.
And Among Us, June 15th, with an update that's going to have 15-player lobbies now. So, and then we went to Ayuden Chronicle Rising and Ayuden Chronicle 100, and Rising is 2022, and then the other one's 2023. But you guys let me know as we were getting in here that it's heading to Game Pass. Was that Nate that you said that?
Yes.
Okay, so Rising is heading there because this is from the creators who did Suikoden. They're doing they did a crowdfunding to get this off the ground, and it seemed to do pretty well there. And I guess Microsoft rolled in with the bag, dropped in the check as well. So I mean that's a good move by Microsoft to do that, just because they're still interested in obviously trying to get more support for like the Japanese audience, and they're looking to move apparently like game streaming xCloud into Japan later this year. So having the entirety of like the Yakuza series and Ayuden Chronicle and all these different things getting added makes sense on that side. So I might just download Ayuden Chronicle then on Game Pass when that shows up in 2022 then.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, for me, crowdfunded games like that are always a bit of a red flag. I mean, with games in the past, they've turned out okay, but there's always been some issues with, I think about like, Mighty Number 9 and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's been some disasters. So I kind of sat out the crowdfunding on this one, even though it did get funded very fast. But I'm really glad to see this game shown at the showcase. It looks really, really good, and man, I want to get stuck in and start playing it.
We had the Ascent. The Ascent's out next month. I actually already preloaded it on the Xbox, so I'm just like hanging out waiting for it. Age of Empires 4, October 28th.
Yeah, looks good.
Really cool for Age of Empires fans. Yep. I'm sure they were really excited about that. Outer Worlds 2, no idea why they announced this, because they had nothing to show for it. I mean, they had like a little kind of comedy trailer to it where they're like, we don't have anything to show at all.
That trailer was pretty good though. It was fun at itself to like, you won't see this creature in the game. He's dead. And here's characters shooting at each other. This leads to sales, and we have nothing else to show you right now. This is all we have. Yeah. It's like, that's a pretty funny announcement trailer.
Outer Worlds 2, though, I mean, that's so far off. They just wanted to put it out there, I guess. Hey, Outer Worlds fans, this is going to be a recurring series going forward. So I'm assuming that's just Xbox Series. Like, that's not going to be an Xbox One game or anything. Flight Simulator, MVG, Flight Simulator, July 27th, Xbox Series SX, Top Gun DLC as well coming to it.
Looks good, and load that baby up on Game Pass. I mean, I love Flight Simulator on my PC, but man, it takes like 100 gigabytes of my hard drive space, so it'd be nice to just delete that and then just download it on Game Pass and have it on my Xbox.
It's very difficult to run, too, so this is going to be... what's going to be interesting is you should try this on the Series S, MVG, to see how it runs on that.
Yeah, I may make a video comparison. We'll see how that goes. That'd be good.
Then we went into Forza Horizon 5, which... Ooh. I mean, this might have been the big game for the event, because this looked This looked wild. This is coming out November 9th.
Yeah.
So we mentioned this as kind of like right in their big. Usually November is where you're like, all right, this is the big holiday title. We're going to drop it in there. And Forza Horizon 5 seems to fit in there. It is in Mexico, as has been rumored for quite some time. They say it's their largest, most diverse open world game for Forza. Ray tracing for the series consoles with this big open world. I wrote down that it looks like over the top, visually impressive. The draw distance was extreme when they were showing it, so you can see things way off in the distance. And they have an events lab that lets you create your own racing races and games and all of this. So what'd you guys think of Horizon 5? Nate, you seemed real excited about this one. You said you've been watching that trailer over and over again.
Yeah, I watched the gameplay demonstration a few times because the visuals are just wow. I can't believe some of the stuff that they have achieved in engine or even in game. When they were showing the caldera and then they showed the river area and they're like, oh, we recorded this, for 12 straight hours with our 12K cameras to accurately get the clouds and the weather effects, and then just instantly transitioned to a car driving by. And I was like, wait, that wasn't a screen, that wasn't an actual photograph, or that wasn't a video feed, that was in game. And it was just wow. And when you look at the entire sequence when they were driving through the Mexican forest going towards the temple for the expedition mode, it's just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, it was extremely populated, like the amount of foliage and
Yes.
everything around, and it was all interactive as you're driving through it. It was pretty impressive when they were, which makes me wonder what it's going to look like on the Xbox One. But
probably look a little rough.
yeah, probably. But I mean, the fact that they're able to fit ray tracing into this as they're going to transition eventually, obviously, just to the series consoles and PC for, I'm sure, Horizon 6, which, hey, crossing our fingers for Japan. But in Mexico, I think it's going to be pretty good. I really enjoyed Horizon 4. I still play it now, so I'm ready to jump over to the next one in the series with Horizon 5. So, I mean, you're right. Some of the visuals they showed with the photogrammetry and everything they were describing, it did look real. Like, it looked real, like when you were looking at it, like, wow.
Even when they were driving into the dust storm, how they accurately got the colors to go into that orange hue, which is an accurate representation of what it looks like to be inside of a dust storm. They spent a lot of time to perfectly replicate the environments, the town, as they mentioned. And when you just look at how they're respecting the culture of the Mexican landscape and environment and everything so perfectly, this is just a really exciting game for them to come out with. And the new modes and details that they're putting into this sounds like that extra year development has definitely been put to good work, and the end product is something I think all Forza fans should be excited for.
It looked very impressive, visually super impressive. But the game is like, these games are really fun. Forza Horizon, people talk about how great they look, but they're legitimately fun racing games, and it's all about exploration, and they seem to be doubling down on that for this one as well. I'm curious if that weather is dynamic though, like what they were showing, because it almost looked like just the dust storm was just kind of coming in as they were driving around.
I got the feeling that it was kind of subliminally telling you that it was, dynamic weather effects and stuff like that. That's kind of what I took away from that that trailer, that it is dynamic weather.
They had like the lightning striking like in the background, like almost to the ground, and it's like, wow, that's good. There could be some really cool moments in this game, and they'll have, I'm sure, photo mode and all of this. People are gonna get some just some crazy looking shots with it. So I am very excited for this one, November 9th. That looks to be their big holiday title next to Halo. So obviously there's going to be the two big ones they're going to be doing a lot of marketing with. But then they closed out with a new IP from Arcane. It's called Redfall. The title's all right. I don't know. Redfall seems like a strange title for it. But it's coming out summer 2022, so we're a year out. It's going to be just for the Xbox Series and PC, so it's not going to be an Xbox One title. Once again, we see Microsoft kind of moving towards next-gen only games now. They mentioned before that they were going to do Xbox One stuff for 2 years, and I guess they're kind of still doing that going into next year, but they do seem to be moving on pretty quickly to Xbox Series stuff. I don't know if the Game Pass numbers are reflecting that, to where they're like, oh, wow, we're getting a lot of Game Pass subscribers with the Series systems as we sell them, or on PC, but they seem to be making that move now. But Redfall, is this an action vampire shooter co-op game? My problem with this is, from Arcade Studios, they didn't explain it very well with this cinematic trailer. Like, I feel like if they had a couple of minutes of just actual gameplay, they would be able to at least have, I think, gotten the message across a bit better as to what we should be expecting from this title.
Yeah, I got vibes of Deathloop, like in that game, in that trailer as well for a minute there. I was like, what are they doing here? Because, obviously Arcane Leon is doing Deathloop for the PS5, at least initially, and then this game is Arcane Austin, right? So same Arcane Studios, but I guess different teams. But yeah, it was a little trickier to kind of follow along with what the game was all about. But I'm kind of intrigued by it, and I want to definitely see more of it. I think it's definitely something I would pick up and play.
Okay. What'd you think, Nate?
It's one of those cases where this would have been that title that in previous Microsoft showcases we would have criticized a lot more, because it would just been like, that's what everything they showed was just another CG trailer. It didn't show us the concept or premise, and that kind of falls into that category. We have an idea of, yes, it has vampires, but is this a co-op shooter? Is it a third-person shooter? Is it a first-person shooter? Is it going to take after Dishonored? How exactly is this game going to be presented in terms of a gameplay style? And when you have that many questions following a trailer, you're kind of just left saying, what am I to be excited about? I guess we can be excited about the prospect that Arcane has a vampire game, but right now it just kind of feels like it's one of those filler announcements, like, oh, cool, this is what's coming out next year, but you need to know a lot more about it.
I still feel like if they had that release date for Halo would have closed out the show. Like,
I think they should have closed out on either Halo or Starfield, because it did have a release date.
Starfield would have been a good one to close out with as well. I feel like it could have gone either way, but yeah, because they showed Halo multiplayer and all this other stuff like that, and it's their flagship game. I think could have done that. I get Arcane's new IP. They're like, hey, we want to show what these studios we bought are going to be doing here, but just a little more, especially since it's coming out a year from now. It's coming out next summer. So it's not going to be at next year's E3, because we assume it'll probably either be out or releasing at that time. We'll already know all about what it is. So they're going to have to show us gameplay, I guess, randomly early next year or something. It feels like they missed an opportunity to explain what this game was a bit better on this big stage, really.
Yeah, I'm okay with Starfield opening the show, by the way. I mean, initially I felt like, when because there was that leak that happened like 5 minutes before the show started with the trailer. So I was initially disappointed that they weren't going to show us anything more of Starfield other than the cinematic trailer. But I mean, the actual show itself was so good, because Starfield wasn't necessarily the most important game that they showed, because there was just so much cool stuff. One thing after the other really just made you think, well, look, this show is bigger than Starfield. This is about Xbox's brand, their future, and Game Pass, right? Like, if you're not a Game Pass fan after watching the showcase, then you'll never get on board, because I mean, they're basically telling you need Game Pass to play all these awesome games. It's the only way you're going to get it. So I don't know. I mean, I was very impressed overall with the.
That's a good point, because even if you don't have an Xbox, you have a PC, you're probably like, oh, this looks great. Look at all these games I'm going to get to play. But Microsoft doesn't really care, because they're like, oh, if you're on Game Pass, it's cool. That's fine with me. But what did we think overall of this show? You want to give it a letter grade and some thoughts on it before we finish up?
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, let's hear the letter grade, Nate. We're gonna go A through. We'll go A, and you can do minus or plus through F.
I'll give it a B plus.
Okay.
Overall,
go ahead.
Yeah, give it a letter grade and then your thoughts overall. Go ahead.
Yeah, B plus. Good pacing. I think the only detractors were things like Omen, or was it Redfall, where it was just, here's a CG trailer. There's really nothing to it. It was just that hollow announcement. I think that was really the only detractor I would have from it. But overall, it showcased Game Pass really well. It showed a lot of promising software coming this year and next year. So I think this is a good presentation from Microsoft. This is what they needed for this year. And it shows that momentum moving forward for the Xbox brand and Game Pass is only going to get stronger, because entering 2022, we're really going to see the fruits of the acquisitions with Bethesda and any other companies that Microsoft may be looking to purchase in the near future. And we're going to get those updates on Starfield, Fable, Perfect Dark, and all these other titles that we have heard of, but we haven't gotten any significant updates on, including Hellblade 2. These are titles we're going to see again moving forward throughout 2021 and into 2022. So I think this was the show Microsoft needed at the time, and it has convinced several of my friends to go out and buy an Xbox. So that's exactly what you want as Microsoft. But I'm really excited about Microsoft moving into the future, and we can tell they have a lot of good stuff planned and coming. So yeah, solid B+.
What do you think, MVG?
I give it an A minus, a little higher than Nate. I was surprised. Like I initially, when Nate and I predicted the show, I was probably around the B to B minus level. So they came with a lot of good stuff. They really impressed me. Was it perfect? No. I mean, there was definitely some areas they could have improved on. I felt like maybe they should have showed us more of Starfield. I would have liked to have seen. I mean, there's got to be some builds. You know, there's some builds of that game, you know, at Bethesda right now that they could have put together some type of gameplay and shown us more of that game. But I mean, I'm kind of nitpicking at this point. Like, I think in general, I was quite impressed with everything. I would have liked to see more on the Bethesda side. I mean, this was Bethesda plus Microsoft. There was some Bethesda stuff, but you know, there would have been nice to see maybe some other things that they were working on or they were potentially working on. But look, there's definitely room for improvement. This was a really good showcase. And look, as mentioned, you know, it's exciting to be an Xbox fan again, and you know, jump on that Game Pass if you haven't, because there's some really cool stuff coming.
I'm gonna go with a B, just a solid B. I think they missed the opportunity to explain Redfall a bit better, and I feel like we shouldn't have any uncertainty leaving this show around Halo Infinite, and there's still some uncertainty around it, and I don't know why there is. Like, they should have shown up. They should have had the release date figured out. They should have any details about a flight or a beta ready to go just in the presentation. And you know what? They should have probably shown something with the single player if they could have. I know they're probably trying hard to get this game out there, but it seems like, I mean, we just talked about it possibly being delayed again. Like, yep. It's just because they didn't give us a release. That's the flagship game on the back of the Xbox box right now, like Series box. So it's weird that they left that one up to, like, we'll come back to it later. It's like, well, how much later? Because it's June. So that's the only thing there. But I think Halo looked a lot better than what we had seen previously. Contraband just showed us a logo. I'm surprised they couldn't show anything more about that. And really, I would say that's probably about it. Everything else looked pretty good. So that's really the only thing I can really knock them for too much there. I think the overall variety of the show is pretty good, even though a lot of people are pointing out that there was a lot of first-person shooter-style games. That's just what Microsoft focuses on. They're very Western-oriented. But they still had some games, like I said, with Psychonauts 2 thrown in there. They had some interesting indie-looking titles as well to kind of sprinkle in there. So for the most part, I think it was a pretty good show from Microsoft. I actually would put it up there as potentially one of their best shows.
Yeah.
This might be their best show. Yeah. So, and Starfield. I think they could have shown at least a little bit of gameplay of Starfield. So, but yeah, I think everyone was pretty much pleased around this on this panel here. So,
yep.
Positive reception for Microsoft at E3. Good showing. Looking forward to what they have for us at Game Pass this holiday and then next year with a lot of stuff coming. So, thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure you guys give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.